Hi, first grade. Before we get started for math, I want to remind you that during these longer lesson videos, if you need to take a break, if you have a hard time sitting through the entire video, please take a break. That's the cool thing about the videos, right, is you can always pause them or restart them. However it works for you, as long as you are getting through the videos and you're listening and watching and working along with me. I can tell how many views each video gets, and I know a lot of you did not get a chance to watch the last math one, which was pretty long, so I really encourage you to get through the videos in whatever format works for you, whether you can sit through the whole thing or if you need to take a break or even 2 breaks throughout, okay? But I would appreciate you taking the time to listen and follow along with the videos. That being said, we're going to jump right into our math today. You do need the shapes that were from page 221. That's 221 in your math workbook. These should have been cut out. So you have a square, a circle, and a rectangle. If you did not do that yet, you need to pause the video and do that now. And please make sure that you cut these out as close to perfect as possible. Take your time, cut them slowly. You want them to be right on the dotted lines because that's going to help you fold these into halves. Now, to jump right in, halves is what we're working on today. And if I said to you, what do you know about the word halves? Halves. And I'm not talking about the word meaning something is belonging to you. I'm talking about the plural form of the word half, a half. So if I said, well, what does a half mean? If I asked for a half of something, hopefully you would tell me that a half is one of 2 equal parts. Okay, or equal shares of something. So, for example, if I had 1 cookie left and Mr. F wanted some and I wanted some, we would try and split that cookie in half, meaning each of the 2 sides we create from it are the same. I drew a little chart here to show you, so you can see that we've got the word half, meaning 1/2, and then the word halves, which is spelled Halves because we went ahead and took the F and turned it into VES. So 1/2, 2 halves. So this is an example of a half of a heart, right? This is an example of half of a piece of bread. It would look something like that. If I said, show me the halves of a heart, you would have to draw both of the 2 equal parts. So you've taken a heart and you've split it right down the middle so that each side is the same. My drawing might not look like they're the same, but the idea is they are. And same for the bread. So we are working on folding and turning our shapes into halves today. So we'll start with that. We're also going to be working on fourths, which means turning something into 4 pieces, right? Instead of just 2, which are halves, into 4 equal parts, but we'll get there when we get there. So go ahead and take your lovely rectangle, this green rectangle, and you are going to, I'd like you to go ahead and fold it in half, right? Try your best to fold it in half. And I'll do it here with you in case you need help. So I would take this, and honestly, the first way I think to do it would be to take this edge and bring it up to this edge. Try and get them as close together as possible, and voila! Now we can see that my rectangle is in 2 parts. If I were to draw a line down the center there, I would have 1/2 and the other half, or 2 halves. Is there a different way we could split this into halves? Yes, there is. We're going to go ahead and fold this edge to match with this edge. Oop. Make sure, this is where it's tricky, and I know sometimes this is hard. It's even hard for me, but try and get them to match, and voila. Now we have halves that are pretty long, but are they the same amount? This much and this much? They are. They are 2 halves. And another way to do this would have actually been, hold on, let me double check. Oh, I guess we could, I'm going to flip, well, no, I'll do it this side. You could try and divide it sort of down the center and fold it at these corners. This one's a little trickier because there's no real line for us to follow. Whoop. Kind of close, but I know this might look like a silly shape, but if we did get it right down the center, which we almost did, I could make it a little better, I think, even. There we go. These, one half, the other half. In this case, it's actually going to be two triangles. So one half and then the other half. Great. Go ahead and grab your square. Let's try the same thing for your square. So remember, the square is different than a rectangle because it has equal sides all around. So I would probably do the same thing. Boom. One half, or two halves. Again, I repeat, a half is one of two parts of something that is equal to the other part. So if I had said, what if I had done this instead? If I folded right here, and then I said to you, okay, here are my two parts, and I drew a line here, and I showed you, here's one part, and here's the other part, here's a half, and here's a half. Would that be correct? No way, Jose, because if I went ahead and shaded this in, does this amount look like it's the same as this amount? No way, this one's way more. So while I did break this shape into two parts, they are not two halves. Not two halves, just two parts. A half needs to be, I'm going to do it like this so you can't see my line. Okay, a half needs to be equal to the other half. Parts have to be the same amount. All right, we could have folded that a different way, but I'm going to move on to our circle. Woo! And again, the circle, you can go ahead and there are no corners on a circle because a circle is round, there are no edges or corners, you can still fold it in half. You just match it up. And voila, two halves of my circle. I could have done the opposite way and done two halves of my circle. And it goes on and on and on. All right. Nice work on playing with your shapes with me. Now, let's go ahead and look at some fourths. So, back down to my lovely whiteboard here. When we were just looking at halves, I could have drawn you a shape, and if I said, please divide that into halves, you could have just drawn a line like this, right across the middle, or you could have done one going the opposite way. Oops, right? As long as they look equal, and I know sometimes when we draw things, they don't always look perfect, but you get the idea. Now that was all about dividing it into halves, but what if I said to you, hey, take a shape, and I want you to divide it into not two equal parts, but four equal parts. Four parts. That is what we call fourths. I don't know why that's such a hard word for me to say. You see the number 4 and then fourths, okay? Fourths are four equal parts of something. And I'm going to go ahead and do some drawings, and if you have a whiteboard with you, you should definitely do this with me. So let's go ahead and draw. Just go ahead and draw a square. Okay, sorry, this is a little off kilter, my square. Fix that a little bit. Whoa, hi. All right. There we go. That looks so similar, it's ridiculous, but whatever. Now if I said to you, all right, here's your square, please divide it into four parts, four equal parts. I want it in fourths. Well, hopefully you might do something like this. Well, you know what, why don't you go ahead, try on your own, try and do it, and then pause the video, and then come back and see what I do. All right, if I were told, hey, divide this into four equal parts, well, I could first divide it into 2 parts, and then I could actually go ahead and cross here, and now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. But wait, there's more. That is not the only way you could have divided that into fourths. All right, and ideally you would have like a ruler for this, but that would sort of take us all day. So we're just trying to eyeball it, okay, using our eyes to make sure that we're about even. Now if I said, well, I need to divide this into 4 parts, I could go ahead and divide down the middle again, right? But then I need 4 parts, not 2 parts. So I'll split this part into 2. Just pretend that this is a little bit more equal looking to this. And then I'll divide this part into 2. And now, look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. Kind of looks like a little old-timey jail cell. All right, now but there are more ways you could divide them. Please feel free to be drawing these on your own whiteboard with me. All right, let's say I had another square. I could have done it across, same thing that I just did up top, except I'm going across here, and then I'm going to divide this part into 2 and this part into 2. And again, you can see them. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. That means we've split our shape into fourths. Woohoo! And last but not least, I could have even done this. This is a pretty cool way. Now, if I said to you, take this square, divide it into halves, you could have also done this. Cool. Even though we've made them into triangles now, that's still half of the square and the other half of the square. But to make it fourths, check this out. Boom. Even though they're triangles, they are still fourths because they are 4 parts that are all the same size. They're equal shares of this object. 1, 2, 3, 4. Excellent. You could have also done this physically with your shapes by folding this into a half and then folding it again, same direction. All right, and you'll end up with, it's hard for you to see a little bit the crinklies, but 1, 2, 3, 4 fourths. 4 parts that are equal shares. I kind of skipped through things this time so the video wouldn't be as long, so you could maybe get through it more quickly, because I know it is hard. But again, I'll repeat. You are focused on fourths and halves, okay? Or halves. I know, we have halves with a V and fourths with a TH, but that's okay. So, when things are split into halves, all right, that means they are split into how many equal parts? 2 equal parts. When things are split into fourths, how many equal parts are they split into? 4 equal parts. So, if I had a circle here and a circle here, and I said to you, first grade, divide this one into its halves and this one into fourths. For this one, you would just need to do one line. You could have done it in any direction, and now you have 1, 2 parts. For this one, and again, I could even do this. Whoop, now I have 2, but nice. 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. Let's try a rectangle. Let's split this rectangle into halves, and let's split this rectangle into fourths. Just like I did up above, I could go like this. Boom. One line, but now 1, 2 parts. I have 2 equal parts, which means I have halves. This one, I could do them horizontally, or I could do vertical, right? Chop it into 2 equal parts, and then chop each of those into 2 equal parts. Okay, and again, I know drawings aren't perfect, but just imagine that these all look equal. I would have 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts that it's been divided into, aka fourths. Nice. You know, there's even some crazier ways to do this. Sorry. For example, you could have also taken, let's say I had a square and a square here. All right, just like for this square, I could divide it into halves by just slicing it here. In a square to make it into fourths, you could divide it into halves, and then you could divide this one into halves going this way, and this one into halves going this way. But because we know that when we first divided it, we had 2 equal parts, it doesn't matter which way we divide the other ones as long as they are a half of that half. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks like they're not equal, but they are. Pretty crazy. I thought that was one to share. But again, you can stick to sort of the simpler ways to divide these shapes so that visually it's easier to understand. All right, now that we have gone through halves and fourths, again, halves, 2 equal parts, 2 equal shares, equal meaning the same amount, fourths, 4 equal parts. Another word that we use for fourths is called quarters, and you can remember that because a quarter, like the actual, all right, like we've learned before, an actual quarter, oh, this one's upside down, all right, but in order to make $1, you need how many quarters? 4 quarters, all right? 4 quarters equal $1, 1 whole of a dollar. Fourths, so 1/4 is going to equal 4 fourths, which would be a whole, right? So 4 parts. So I could say this is 1/4, this little chunk here, or I could say it's 1/4. Now we're going to go grab our workbooks, and I'm just going to show you what you're going to do on the 2 pages. You're going to need to open to page 223. That's 223. And you will see that it says, sorry, you'll see, I just want to make sure I'm on the right page for you. All right, here we are. So this page here, 223, it says draw a line to show halves. Color 1/2 of the shape, all right? So this first section of problems, 1, 2, 3, and 4, all you need to do is split them into halves, split them into 2 equal parts. You can do in that whatever way you want. I could do, let's just do a simple one. Make sure that when you do this, you do it kind of slowly and carefully. I did not just now, and you can see it doesn't really look like a half. It looks a little off, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to work with it. So I drew one line, and then it said color in 1/2 of the shape. For my circle, yeah, again, just 2 parts here. That one was better. And then just color 1/2 of it. Please continue to do that for numbers 3 and 4. Then when we get down here, it says draw lines to show fourths. Color 1/4 of the shape. This is going to be the same thing. However, you're going to need to draw not one line, but well, you'll most likely end up drawing 3 lines or 2 lines, but depending on what you do, it might be a little different. So for my first one, I'll keep it simple. First, I'll split it into 2 equal halves, but I'll split each of those into 2 equal parts, and that will actually give me how many equal parts? 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts, which means I've split my shape into fourths, and it says color 1/4, so only 1/4, 1 of the 4, complete for the other ones. Once you're completed with that page, you'll move on to the next page, all right, which is page 224, and it says solve the story problem. I'll read you numbers 9 through 11, and then you can just do the bottoms on your own. I don't need to read you the practice subtraction problems. So let's see. Solve the story problem. 4 friends want to share a sandwich. Oh, perfect. So we're on number 9. 4 friends want to share a sandwich. How can they cut the sandwich into 4 equal shares? Draw lines. Color each share a different color. Pretty simple stuff. So, just again to show you, it's saying to us there are how many friends wanting to share? 4. 4 friends are wanting to share. All right. How can they cut the sandwich into 4 equal shares? That means just equal parts, which is just another word for fourths if we're looking for 4 equal shares. Draw lines. You could do 1, 2. Sorry, you could do a line across and then across, or you could do a line diagonal and then diagonal. Up to you. All right, as long as you get 4 equal parts, and then you can color each of the shares a different color. So I would want to do 1/4 one color, another 4th a second color. So you will need a total of 4 colors to show the 4 different equal shares that you've created. All right. The next 2 I won't do, but you can try your best. And I will try my best to read it upside down for you. The 4 friends want to share a pie for dessert. How can they cut the pie into 4 equal shares? Draw lines, color each share a different color. Same thing you did before. And then finally, number 11, it says, one friend only wants 1/2 of her granola bar. How can she cut her granola bar into halves? Draw a line to show 2 equal shares. Color each share a different color. So in this one, just one of the friends happens to have 1 granola bar, and she only wants half of it. So if she only wants half and she wants to give the other half away, you need to draw a line to show how she would split that, and then color each of the shares a different color. So remember, a half is different than a 4th, right? Halves is when you only need to split it into 2 parts. 4ths is when you're doing 4ths. So this one, it started with 4ths, but now this last problem is giving us a half problem. That is it for your math today. Great job if you've made it through the whole video. Proud of you. And don't forget, though, to finish these equations on the bottom. They're just some subtraction practice. They are all subtraction, but definitely check to make sure that you are doing the correct operation when you work on those. Great job. Bye.